Jimmy's there in the waiting room. There you go. Everyone's here. Lane's not
Lane,
feeling
she's in
so.
Egypt. Is she in Egypt or something?
Yeah, we're in good shape.
We're ready.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Virginia Harger. I'm chair of the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission. Today is Wednesday, February 26, 2025, and the regular meeting of the commission being conducted via Zoom is hereby called to order at 6:02 p.m. This meeting is also being carried live on YouTube. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. I'll start off with a roll call of the commission. Please verbally indicate you're present when your name is called. Commissioner Kelly?
Present.
Commissioner Tiki?
Present.
Commissioner Parkins?
Present.
Commissioner Cristiano?
Present.
Alternate Commissioner Apple?
Here.
Alternate Commissioner McGee?
Present.
Myself, Commissioner Harger, Ms. Castro, our Assistant Administrator,
Present.
Ms. Renasso is our Recording Secretary,
Present.
Ms. Charbonneau, our Stenographer.
Present.
For the record, Commissioner Amato is not available for this evening's meeting. Alternate Commissioner McGee, you're being seated for Commissioner Amato, and would you just please acknowledge that you understand?
So acknowledged.
Thank you. Just a couple points before continuing with this evening's agenda. I do want to point out the agenda was not posted to the city's website, but it was in the town clerk's office yesterday as of 5:13 p.m. And I did confer with council, and it did meet the FOIA requirement. We have always tried to accommodate the public by putting it on the city's website, but there was an oversight this time. So continuing on, Ms. Castro is going to act as the Zoom meeting host. And while commissioners will be able to make comments throughout the meeting, the chair asks that you please identify yourself and wait to be seated. Wait to be recognized before speaking to make sure we're not all speaking over each other and to make sure our recording secretary is clear as to who is speaking. The first item on the agenda is a continuation of a public hearing, and I'd like to share the protocol we will be following. Staff will indicate if any written comments were received from the public no later than 24 hours before the start of the evening meeting. If written comments were received, they will be read into the record. The applicant and or its associates will make their presentation. The commission can ask questions during the presentation or at its conclusion. The applicant and or associates can answer commission questions at the time they're presented or at the conclusion of the presentation. At the point in each public hearing, when the chair asks for public comment, we will begin with elected officials of the city participating via Zoom or through a phone link. After elected officials conclude their comments, members of the public participating remotely via Zoom or through a phone link will be recognized. Those participating via Zoom will need to use Zoom's raise your hand feature, and those participating via a phone link will need to dial *9 to be recognized. After you are recognized, please state and spell your name and state your address to assist the recording secretary and stenographer when doing the minutes and transcript of the public hearing. Each speaker has 5 minutes to present comments, which should address specific criteria of the zoning regulations, the merits of the application, and be new information, not a repeat of comments presented by a previous speaker. Comments and questions should be directed to the commission, not to the applicant and or his associates. Members of the public are expected to practice appropriate etiquette by being quiet, observant, and respectful. Disruptive attendees may be removed from verbally participating. The applicant's attorney and or associates will be given the opportunity to address any comments or questions from the public after the last person from the public has been given the opportunity to speak. If the commission feels further information is needed from the applicant, the chair will ask for a motion to continue the public hearing. If a public hearing remains open, the commission is not allowed to make any public comment, discuss any part of the applicants and or his associates' presentation, or receive any additional information from anyone. If the commission feels the applicant and or associates have answered all questions and have addressed all concerns from the commission and or public, the public hearing will close. And the commission reserves the right to discuss the application at the close of the public hearing or to schedule a discussion at an upcoming commission meeting. So this is the continuation of the public hearing for application 2420, Dominic Thomas for Crown Point 2 LLC at 0 Bridgeport Avenue and 48 Long Hill Crossroads. Assessors map 50, lots 15 and 16 in an LIP zone for a planned development district for a mixed-use commercial development to include a hotel, restaurants, grocery, and retail. This application was accepted for review on July 10th, 2024. The public hearing opened on September 18th and was continued to November 20th and January 22nd. A fourth revised statement of uses and standards, a fifth revised site plan, and a lighting plan was recently filed by the applicant. Ms. Castro, or any other reports, materials, or correspondence received within the time period for this application, but not yet posted to the city's website that we need to acknowledge for the record?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Is the applicant present? Please identify
Yes,
yourself for the record and proceed.
Attorney Dominic Thomas, Cohen and Thomas, 350 Main Street, Derby, Connecticut, representing the applicant. And just to update you, we presented in detail with our engineers and architects and everything, a revised site plan that we had done, which was the result of discussions with the representatives of Hawks Ridge, and we presented at the last public hearing, I think at the last couple of public hearings, how we made the changes to the buildings, and we answered many of your questions, and we presented how we would address the issues of the buffer and show the additional entrance, which would soon alleviate any construction entrance off of Long Hill Crossroads that would go from Crown Point Center into the site. The main issue with all of that was that in the discussions with them, we had agreed to propose 8 townhouses at the top in the upper area, and we had moved the line of the PDD back to the property boundary with a Cinto building where Modern Plastics is located. The commission expressed dissatisfaction with that use at the top. And as I explained, my client was more than willing then to bring the line back down to the retaining wall, leave it LIP, and come back to the commission at a later time for a use before the commission. As a result of that, before the last meeting, we filed the revised civil site plans, which I will address in a minute, and which again are no basic changes except moving the line down. In addition to that, and over the last 4 weeks, we have received our 52-page wetlands analysis report, and the wetlands application is completed and ready to be filed tomorrow with them, which would address also the stream reconstruction plan, which is shown in concept on the plans. In addition, it was discovered that a lighting plan, due to for those of you baseball fans that remember Alphonse and Gaston, the two people who let the ball drop in between the two of them, that's exactly what happened with respect to the lighting plan. So I uploaded a lighting plan. It was done by someone other than Rose Tizo, never made it to them to be included. The only thing, it just basically, normally we address the lighting plan at the final site development plans. But it was my understanding that the lights were shown on the conceptual site plans they had not planned because somebody else was doing it. But the lighting plan, which is to the level of a final site development plan, does show that we comply with all the down lighting and all the no light off the site. The only thing about the drawing of the light plan, which I didn't get a chance to get it corrected, is the light plan was still based on the site plan with the townhouses in it, but that's relatively irrelevant. So what I'd like to do is screen share just to show you what are the changes. I'm assuming everybody could see my screen now.
Yes,
Okay, so expanding it a bit, just to show you that, again, all that we explained to you last time, which was this being a no-build area, it still is going to stay a no-build area. How the buildings were combined there to create a better flow, and how we're going to have the entrance off of here. The only change throughout the whole thing is simply this area here is now designated is LIP zone to remain. So this area here is not going to be part of the PDD. The PDD ends here, and the statement of uses and standards that was filed removed the use, the residential use, and adjusted all of the numbers, including the DOT property, which is in the process of being sold to our client. So basically, I just wanted to point that out to you that, there's no need for, the engineering was gone over, the drainage and everything, soil erosion and sediment control was gone over to you in depth. To let you know that the reconstruction of the sewer line, which is on the top here of this one, that was approved by the WPCA. And I think they're just working out the details so that we can my client can commence construction. So now, as we stated, go this way over here, the PDD line is this line here, then follows the top of the retaining wall, and the next goes down and follows the area along the top of the retaining wall and all the way down to here. The upper area remains LIP. And I made the changes and everything, including in the statement of uses and standards now is an exact surveyor's meets and bounds description of the PDD area. So with that change, again, we've explained everything else. There's really nothing else we have to present. We will be going to wetlands. We feel very confident based on the report. I will point out that we will be able to get this approved entrance to the property from that will come in off of Crown Point Center. We are still going to OSTA, which is pending with them, with the 3 entrances, one of which will have a traffic light, and the third one down here will not. We are dealing with OSTA. There will be, as we said, about $5 million of offsite. It's doing this is approved, about $5 million of offsite road improvements, and it does involve, as explained, widening of the bottom of Long Hill Crossroads and traffic improvements coming up to the light at the bottom of Long Hill Crossroads. So I'm here to answer any questions, if any of you have any questions about that one change. But again, we did address all of the other engineering and technical things at the last meeting. The only thing that changed was the boundary of the PDD.
okay. Commissioners have any questions for Attorney Thomas?
Madam Chair, I have some questions.
Sure, that's Commissioner Cristiano.
Correct. Attorney Thomas, in your statement of uses standards, 7A references some deferred parking. Can you talk about that?
The statement of uses and standards proposes that there can be deferred parking. That's common language that I put in anything. It's up to the commission. In this site, at this point, there is no deferred parking. We just because we have to comply with tenant requirements, our parking, let me just go up here. Our parking,
I didn't see any, that's why I was asking.
yeah, no, we did, I put that in there in case the commission decides it would prefer in certain areas to see some deferred parking. In this site, it became a little, that's just language that I put in, everything. But in this site, we are, the regulation count, provides for parking at 466, we're providing 594. And there really isn't any areas given the tenant requirements. And the three main tenant requirements we have to deal with are the hotel, Texas Roadhouse, and the grocery store.
So you mentioned the hotel parking, so you have 123 parking spots in the
Right.
hotel with 123 rooms.
Right.
So obviously in a PDD, you can you can request whichever parking ratio you want, but obviously we have in our regulations 3384 a 1.25 ratio of parking. So that would bring in a normal circumstance, the parking requirement up to 153 parking spaces. I understand that, we're looking at the entire plaza, but we also have the restaurant right next door that would utilize the parking at the same time in the evening when the hotel would be at capacity and the restaurant would be at capacity. What would be your feedback on that point?
Well, the 1-to-1 is what we've used in other PDDs. So that's why we did it, where especially there is the option of other parking within a shared parking area. I do think that the hotel we didn't have it testified in here, but in other PDDs, the testimony is that the hotel parking, first of all, even 1-to-1 may be too much because of the number of people that now make use of ride shares to get to and from their locations in the hotel. However, the hotel parking is usually overnight. That's their peak period of time, is the overnight to the morning, where the restaurant ends usually around 9 and 10. This is a food restaurant. It's not the restaurant that is a bar where people stay longer. So based on that, and based on the natural shared parking that occurs in a center, that's why we kept with the other parkings that we have. For instance, what was called the Hotel Sierra was 1-to-1, and I'm not sure if some, that's the only one I can think of. The one that I did was the Hotel Sierra, which was a 1-to-1 parking.
Okay. I got another couple of questions for you, Attorney Thomas. So the Texas Roadhouse does not have a proposed outdoor patio, correct?
Not that I'm aware of. If they decide, I can't, let me just hold on 1 second. I don't think I uploaded the architecturals, but I can get to it. But let me.
So my follow-up question is, you're looking at that. So I'm sure, and I know you are familiar with prior projects where there's been a discussion of contention regarding the installation of outdoor patios that are essentially become a 12-month-a-year addition to a building. So would you be
Yeah, there is a patio area, I think.
So
Let me
that
just
would
blow
be,
this up a little more. Can you see this? This is
Patio.
patio.
Yeah.
Can you see this right here?
so I would like to get clarification what the intention is of the applicant on what they're doing with that patio prior to
Well,
us making any decision, because a patio and an enclosed 12-month-a-year patio is my opinion is two totally different things. Okay, a 12-month patio enclosed is in my opinion an extension of the building. Okay, that we should consider in advance before making approval. So I'd like that cleared up prior to
Yeah,
any.
well, I can clear it up for you. The the architectural plan show it as an outdoor patio. And when we remember, these are the initial development concept plans. When we come in, um, if the restaurant, and I don't think it will, but I'm just telling you, if a restaurant then were to go to an enclosed, the commission could consider it a major modification and hold a public hearing on it and address it that way. But no, this is not a covered patio.
Okay, so I was just looking for
An
clarification.
enclosed heated patio. No, it is not.
Okay,
But there's
Now, that
likely
doesn't mean
seating.
they wouldn't have an outdoor patio at certain times of the year with some of those heaters, you know what I mean? But no, it's not enclosed.
So if it's not, if it likely though has seating capacity, it's not just like a
I'm
place
sure
to
we'll
go
probably have
smoke.
outdoor seating capacity, yeah.
Right, so the capacity of the restaurant now should include that outdoor patio, regardless of it's seasonal or not. I think that's the point that, one of the points that Commissioner Cristiano's trying to make is that
Well,
it needs
yeah,
to be
we're-
accounted
yeah,
for now in the parking ratio.
right. We're showing it, and we're well over parked. We're well over parked, whether you want to, include it, I can go back. I don't think Pat Rose is on tonight, but we're well over parked to accommodate whatever seating is taking place in here.
well,
Trader,
that's,
yeah,
that's the
uh,
question. That's
yeah.
not, that's your interpretation, whether we're overparked when we consider the hotel and so forth. It's your interpretation we're overparked, right?
Well,
Um,
we're over parked based on the statement of uses and standards. That's proposed.
correct, but the statement of use and standards is your interpretation of how many spots are needed. So,
Correct, yes.
my last question is in your statement of use and standards, section 5, there's A through I, different permitted uses. And it lists a variety of permitted uses that aren't currently being offered in this plaza. And I'm assuming that is for some sort of future expansion or changing of businesses down the road. What is concerning with that, and then maybe it'll have to be cleared up in a resolution at some point, is that some of these things that are referenced in your statement of uses, where you're saying, believe it has gyms and looking at my notes here, I apologize.
Okay,
And so
can
forth.
you see the statement of uses and standards now?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
So when
The-
we indicate here, business and professional offices, banks, physical fitness centers, these, in my opinion, are businesses that require more parking than what is currently being presented. And it is, it is a concern about approving businesses that aren't in the plaza now and are really labeled for future expansion.
Well, when I've obviously done quite a few of these, and the parking ratios, I have tried because um, we've been able in many other ones to show that we can reduce the parking. The parking ratios have to take into account the concept of shared parking. The reason you have these other uses, for instance, banks, because there is, for instance, a proposed drive-through restaurant could become a bank. In addition to that, there are banks that sometimes go in and want to have just an ATM in a certain center. Not that this is proposed at this point. Physical fitness centers came up because in a prior one, if in one of the retail slots, you want to have one of those personal fitness centers like you have in Fountain Square, personal training centers. In the past, it's been considered a separate use, so that's why I put it in, because that type of thing. Business and professional offices, you could have in the retail center, you could have somebody go in, you could have an eye doctor go in, or you could have an urgent care go in, and those are usually considered under that category.
Right, I
So that's why
understand.
we have those categories, so we wouldn't, because every time you change the statement of uses and standards, you are changing the zoning regulations for the zone, for the PDD. So you need
Correct.
to change it. So
I understand your
that's
point.
the reason why those are in there.
I,
And
I understand your point, Attorney Thomas. My concern is that we're asked to make decisions on the parking ratios on existing businesses that are being proposed, and that those businesses could change over time, and new businesses come in with higher volume in a area that's going to be congested. We see this in other developments that have been approved in the past where parking is very tight, and that's concerning to leave generic approvals like this. And maybe that gets worked out in the final approvals, but
well,
it's just.
the final site development plans may and will in this case have definitive tenants, but the concept of this is basically the model that was, I don't want to take credit for developing it, but Mr. Panico, in his approaches and his corrections to the prior statement of uses and standards, the goal was not to have to keep running back in. And with respect to some use that had proven ITE or other excessive parking demands, uh, the commission could certainly say, well, that even though, for example, if you had a medical office that was going to go from a specialist to a type of practice that had a much higher ratio of appointments, you would have that when the person and the use came before you, which could then be sent to the commission for addressing it under the PDD regs, and the commission has its discretion. But it's not to try to trick you or anything into it. These are the normal types of uses that can go into a retail outlet,
I,
that we have here, or the change. And the parking ratio takes into account the fact that in many of these, it's been proven that there is shared parking.
no, I understand. I understand it, and I don't mind to go back and forth. But we have examples in town now that some of these plazas are extremely busy beyond capacity, and maybe these things should have been looked at closer by whoever was making those decisions back then, and we shouldn't be approving moving forward what was approved in the past. That's what I'm trying to make clear.
Okay.
So want to ask the questions now so we don't
Yeah.
run into the same problems as we have in the past.
I mean, certainly if the suggestion is that we remove some of these, then we'd have to come back on an individual basis. I'm not, we've done in the past parking analyses showing how, parking flows, with the uses and their peaks. But yeah, I'm certainly willing, before we go, into the final site development plans, to have some discussion on that. But again, yeah.
Commissioner Harger,
Yes,
Commissioner Kelly, maybe we could clarify the confusion by when something is either added or deleted or changed, we physically change the parking ratios that have been listed on the drawing. That way we won't get confused and we won't overlook anything.
mhm. Yep, that's.
But You
idea.
can't necessarily change the parking if you don't have it. If a
Pardon
new
me?
business is coming in,
Yeah.
you have so many parking places. You can always deny the business based on the fact that you don't.
Well,
think-
that's what I'm getting at,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Commissioner
Keep-
Barton.
Yeah.
But we need to know, I mean, and let's face it, we're thinking about, for an example, Fountain Square, we have Trader Joe's, oh yeah, very nice, blah, blah, blah. But we have to take in consideration, the parking of it, and really, I don't, think that's our job to do it. I think it's the applicant's job to do it.
Well, yeah, you're correct, and it's why, like, for example, in this, we have to deal with tenants' requirements and everything. But in this proposal, we have a parking standard that has worked in other centers. And um, and that computing that comes up to 466 spaces. We have 594 spaces.
Well, actually,
And
I did a little math and I was figuring it out, and Commissioner Cristiano is correct on the hotel. Either, there is a disagreement that we don't need to, but he has one space per room, and
Right.
the regulations call for 1.25. If we figured it all out between the supermarkets, the fast food and whatnot, I came up with, and I could be wrong, 584 spaces, which is needed.
Right. That would be, and your parking regulations are based on a standalone use on a standalone site.
Well, it doesn't say that.
No, they are not based on any shared parking. That's been determined. You have no, I don't think you have a language, a lot of them have in there that says you can take into account and reduce the parking counts when there is shared parking. But in most of the PDDs, there is shared parking. There's not going to be any prohibition for the people in the hotel.
Okay. Can you show me where
Hotels are overparked if you.
Yeah, I
except
know
for-
that. I'm not questioning that, but can you show me where it says about shared parking on this? Or I don't see it, so,
Where it says about shared parking, what? Where?
well, you're saying that it's based on shared parking. A lot of
Well,
these.
no, you have a center in which you have shared parking,
Yeah,
is
but
my
the
point that
point
I'm
of the
making to
shared
you,
parking
as
is
opposed
that
to
the restaurant is going to be utilizing the same shared parking at the same time that the
well,
hotel is using the shared parking. So it's
I,
not as if it's where you've used arguments in the past with other projects where one business is closed during the day and other businesses open during the night. This is not the same scenario, right? Someone would have to, it's not
hotel parking, hotel parking peak is overnight.
correct.
That's when
In the
the hotel parking
evening and
peak is
overnight.
overnight, not during the day, and
In the
maybe it'll
evening when
build in
people
the
are,
early evening, but we've never had any issue with any of the hotel issues, the two that are in centers.
it's not about a hotel, it's about who's using a parking lot
Parking in general, right?
at the same time. And in the evening, a
Have
hotel is using a
what
parking
they may
lot
have,
at the same time as
You,
a restaurant is
you
using a
can't
parking lot.
you can't compare it to our regular regulations that are, as Attorney Thomas, and I'm not defending him, I'm just stating the fact that our regulations that outline parking requirements are based on a standalone parcel of land, right? That's what they have to meet if it's a standalone. But the reason we have discretion with the PDDs in the amount of parking is the fact that we can allow for shared parking because it's there. In a standalone, lot, there's no other parking to be shared other than going out on the street to park, which we wouldn't allow. So they have to meet the regulation. In the case with the PDD, where you've got additional parking, this commission has to make the decision whether we feel that the parking ratio is adequate for this particular parcel.
Correct.
So, I'm in agreement that the hotel is likely overparked. I am more concerned about the grocery store, because again, I think what we're seeing in other plazas is based on the popularity or the trendiness of what goes in there, it can definitely create a parking issue. So again, they're not telling us who's in there. If that was a Wegmans, I'd say that entire place needs to be parked, right? It's based on the popularity of what you're putting in there. Stu Leonard's, you're going to have massive amounts of people coming. If you got a little Aldi's going in there, all right. You got Trader Joe's up the street. You know, not everybody likes to go to Aldi's. So it really is, and we don't have any control over who the actual tenant is, right? It's just in the statement of uses, it's going to be a grocery store.
Correct.
Right, exactly.
So that's why this commission has to make its best guess, you know, using its best judgment as to whether we feel this particular plaza has the parking that's required if it doesn't meet the regulations outside of a PDD.
Apparently, according to Commissioner Kelly's computations, we have enough parking here if you did do this standalone. Because we have 594, and he said he computed it at 580 something. So if you had if you took all the standalone uses, we still have.
Oh, yeah,
a
you're
number of
absolutely
spaces.
right. You're absolutely right. But if you add or if you change the characteristics or change the store, so on and so forth, it could delete or add parking areas.
Mhm.
That's what I was getting at. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, these are still concept drawings, and
Yeah.
like Commissioner Parkin said, we don't know who's moving in.
Mhm. We have plenty
Right.
of
Well,
examples that the plan that we had approved initially gets changed over the course of time.
I mean, you know, you have a supermarket that's 25,000 square feet.
Yep. So it could be that the footprint of that particular building in front of us could change. It could be reduced because the tenant going in there would be such a draw that they would need more parking and they would
Right.
not be comfortable with what is already laid out.
True.
Exactly.
True. You also don't want to overpave, right? You
Right.
know,
Right.
if you can put green space in this plaza, that would be nice, you know?
Agreed.
we have plenty of, we've shown you the green map, and I think we've uploaded it.
Yep.
And subject only to the tweaks that we mentioned, there is going to be quite a bit of green space, and there is going to be a stream corridor plan, enhancement corridor plan, and because of the development, uh, the end uh, the end area of the Long Hill Crossroads end area is going to be all green because you're not going to have a pad down that end, down the very end. So I think we've tried to incorporate the green into it and areas throughout where they can have. I mean, remember, most of these are done with the initial concept development plans. And in this case, this is one of the few that we actually have two tenants. And as far as a Wegmans, you're absolutely right. But remember, Wegmans prototype is 125,000 square feet.
Right.
You would, I don't even know if you could fit it on this site.
Oh, I'd love to have one, but
What about a Whole Foods?
This is too small for Whole Foods. You'd have to take away other space if Whole Foods came in. So
Yeah.
you'd take
to
away the
Commissioner
retail space.
Harger's point that, you know, they could come in and say, you know, Whole Foods wants to be here in Shelton, so you give them all that space.
So you wipe out the retail and you add it to the supermarket.
Yeah, now you don't have the retail, you have all the parking for them.
Well, you
Right.
have the
If we
retail.
did, if we did that, again, you might get a change at the final site development plans, but certainly we'd have to come before you with that
Oh,
kind of a tenant to
absolutely.
readdress that issue. I can tell you, Whole Foods not going to go in to this shape of the building.
No.
So
No.
we'd have to come in. This is a PDD. We'd have to come in and do what would be almost would be most likely be considered a major modification.
Right.
You could have a gym though.
Could have a small gym, yes.
Um,
Gyms
What-
are not high traffic, so.
I do have a,
5,000 square feet of retail is quite a bit.
But we haven't.
It would need our approval.
Right, exactly. And like Attorney Thomas said, it is a major modifications.
I have a question for Attorney Thomas. Down at the far end where that non-build area is going to be, what kind of plantings or screenings are being planned for that area? Is it on landscape.
on a second.
Yeah, I thought they showed us that.
And let me go back to the right size and I have to say to you, I'm sitting in Derby's town hall, waiting to go before the ZBA on the Griffin Hospital matter. If
Yep,
there's somebody else going, so I may have to break at some point to at least run out there, but,
it's SP8, I believe.
yeah.
So it's just that,
Yeah,
that
so
right
here's,
area,
yeah,
right under the word cross.
these are arborvitaes, these are lower level type plantings. Obviously, though, you'll get more detail in the final site development plan, and it would have to pass Commissioner Meadows' muster.
That's right.
Exactly.
Our resident landscaper.
Right.
Yeah. So according to the symbols under the word cross, you do have some shrubs, junipers, and you do have some pin oaks alternating.
The goal here is to have something that is landscape, but to have the center visible from people coming northbound on Bridgeport Avenue.
Yeah. Okay.
While you've got that up, my only other question was you've done a good job with crosswalks. But I'm a little concerned about the parking area that's to the far right of that little drive-through. There's no safe way for them to cross.
Well,
To get-
in the final site development plans, we can certainly add crosswalks. You know,
Yeah.
this is but that can be a suggestion. We can certainly add them
Yes,
to
please.
encourage the crosswalks.
Yeah, otherwise they're walking through lanes of parking. cars.
Exactly, through drive-through lanes, yeah,
Right.
or parking lanes, yeah. Needs to be a little safer.
Mhm.
And that can
Okay.
easily be added.
Is there anything else for us? Any comments?
No, I have nothing else.
Okay, any commissioner have any final thoughts, questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner McGee.
Yeah, Attorney Thomas, I was just wondering if you could expand a little bit. So the major modification from the last plan you submitted to this plan is obviously the LIP zone now instead of the townhouses. Can you just talk a little bit more about that? Why that is staying as an LIP zone, and yeah, just expand on that a little bit.
Well, in the discussions that we've had with
I think he froze.
You froze, yeah.
Yeah.
He's lost for words.
Not likely.
I was looking forward to it, man.
All right, somebody know at 6:45 PM on February 26th.
They did discuss that the last time,
Yeah, we
the
did.
last hearing.
Oh dear.
I know.
What happened?
I am back in.
Okay. Wi-Fi in City Hall was cut off, but it's up, up again.
Yeah, but he's in Derby City Hall.
I know, but to
Oh, ours, yeah.
That could be a thing. I don't know how broad this was.
yeah. Valley-wide. He's out.
He's trying to get back in. There he
Yeah.
is.
my apology, my internet just went down. I'm operating on a hotspot in Derby Town Hall. So my apologies for that. Commissioner McGee, I don't know how much you heard of that. The uses up top, if it was the PDD, all the uses in the PDD would be eligible for that spot. The only access to that spot is off of Long Hill Crossroads. That plus the comments of the commission in the past and everything that giving up LIP land. Well, if you don't want you cannot really create an interconnection with the top piece. So I felt it was best to leave it LIP, which in effect is more restrictive than the PDD and would not bring those uses up to the top, those commercial uses up to the top,
Mhm.
which would have to access off of Long Hill Crossroads. There's no alternative.
Right, just as if the residential was there, it'd only be accessible from Long Hill Crossroad.
Correct,
The
correct.
same thing.
Yeah.
Does that help, Commissioner McGee?
Yeah, I just think where I'm coming from with, and we'll hear the public hearing after this, right? But I just think where I'm coming from with it is I didn't get a chance to speak at the last meeting. I didn't really see what the issue was with the townhouses, and I know we have a letter from the Hawks Ridge folks that didn't really see what the point was to that either. Um, it seemed like a reasonable thing to do. It was only 8 units. It was right across the street from another residential development. I don't know. I don't really know where we were going with that and why.
Mhm. Okay. All right, Attorney Thomas, that, non-build area to the right, who's gonna maintain that? And is that gonna be some type of open field?
Our client will maintain it. It will be maintained with grass, and it could have a couple of benches. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Maybe something similar to the area in Fountains that will be developed in Fountain Square, right in the middle, behind what used to be behind the coffee shop, and now behind Cava, something like that, with just a couple of benches, something like that.
Okay, and then, looking at SP-0, where you have the driveways, none of those driveways are going to be, paving over the brook, are they? They're all gonna be bridges?
Oh, no, no. The ones all coming from Bridgeport Avenue are specially designed driveways where the footings are outside of the brook area. And then they lay the bridge down over it. I think you had a presentation from Manny, a detailed presentation on what the bridges look like and how they address
Did.
the issue of crossing the bridge,
Mm-hmm,
crossing the brook, sorry.
mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody else have any comments, questions?
Madam Chair, I have a question on that.
Sure.
So a couple times on the plans, it mentions a stream corridor management plan. Do we have that? I can't find it.
Well, no, we have a proposed concept. The actual detailed stream corridor management plan will be going before the Wetlands Commission. In the application, they'll be receiving it in March, and I don't know when they'll hold their public hearing on it. And then that exact plan that they approve will be on the final site development plans.
Got it. Thank
Okay, if there isn't anything else, we need to go into the public portion. So if there's anyone from the public that wishes to comment on the revised statement of uses and standards or the last revised site plan, and you're an elected official or member of the public, if you're participating via Zoom, please use Zoom's raise your hand feature. If you're here by phone, then dial *9. You should do it at this time.
No elected official, but I'm adding in Attorney McCann.
Okay. All right, Attorney McCann, could you identify yourself for the record?
Yes, ma'am. Brian McCann, Pullman Comley for the Hawks Ridge Homeowners Association.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening. Brian McCann, I represent Hawks Ridge. Hawks Ridge had negotiated with the applicant over some revisions to the site plan. Those revisions were essentially to accommodate and provide for what we had presented to the commission, i.e. preservation of open spaces, mitigation of traffic impacts, consideration of property values, buffers, etc. We had several experts, we had several residents testify to several of these issues, and I think that what resulted through those negotiations was a better plan. The one thing that a couple impacts that resulted from the amendment to the third amendment to the plan, which put the PDD back on the eastern portion of the site. One that obviously jumps off the page is that the conservation easement has been completely eliminated. In previous hearings, I heard, I believe, 2 different commissioners state their opinion that the conservation easement should extend all the way across that eastern portion of the site. So one thing to bear in mind is that not only did the town not get a larger conservation easement, it was completely eliminated. Much of the improvements to the plan regarding the no-build area, the landscaping, I think we could all agree that they are improvements. But in much of I think it's important to note that much of the negotiating capital spent by Hawks Ridge really centered around the use and the effects of on Long Hill Cross. You heard the testimony that it's a road that suffers from high rates of travel, speeding on the road, that it's a windy road at portions, that there's a school bus stop, that children traverse that portion from the residential community to the school bus stop. They certainly had spent an enormous amount of time and energy trying to mitigate the risk on that stretch of the road. And I think you could all appreciate that. Whereas I think the average neighbor who opposes an application wants that use eliminated or moved farther away. This negotiation really centered around the impact to the road. And when you step back and think about that, it's not just an impact to Hawks Ridge. I think it's an impact to the community. If you have industrial, your typical industrial truck traffic coming out on that stretch of the road, trying to turn what I would imagine would be to the right to get down to Bridgeport Avenue, there could pose some serious danger to the surrounding community and the travelers of that road, which is primarily why they supported a residential component on the upper half. I think it was a careful consideration with all the experts' input that a residential component there would not only provide transitional use, which is something referenced in your regulation, but it also would provide a much smaller class of vehicle and a much tighter turning radius, and as a result, probably a much less impact to the dangers and traffic impacts on Long Hill Cross. So Hawks Ridge does certainly wish that the commission would, if not now, at some point reconsider that residential component. And also if you take a look at that upper portion, that eastern portion of the site, and you consider the setbacks necessary from the sewer easement, as well as the narrow width of that lot, and the retaining wall on the northern portion, or at least the stepped terraced area, as Attorney Thomas described it, on the northern portion, it's going to leave a fairly small area of land that can be developed. And given all those things, we believe that it's a piece of land that is that should be developed with a residential, relatively low traffic and low impact use. And I also wanted to point out for the, and also the terms of the agreement that Hawks Ridge has efforted to reach with Crown Point 2 has been specific to that construction entrance and exit on Long Hill Cross, which I know you've heard a lot about, but that's the same concern. It's the impact on that road, which will eventually impact everyone. And I also submitted a memorandum for the record, but I won't go over that. I just wanted to bring the commission's attention to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that it? Okay.
Yes, thank you,
Okay.
Chair.
Thank you very much. Ms. Castro, is there any other members of the public who wish to address the commission?
Yes, I will be adding in Christine Grasso. She'll be joining shortly.
Good evening. This is Christine Grasso. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. What's your address, Christine?
Yes, it's 47 Hawks Ridge Drive,
Mhm.
and obviously that's in Shelton. I just wanted to talk a little bit about what our community has been trying to do. I am one of the original owners of the 6 that invested early in our development with my husband Frank. And as the vice president of our HOA on behalf of the Hawks Ridge community, we're reaching out again to request consideration of the agreement that our residents have negotiated with the developer proposing application 2420. We really believe that the terms of our agreement strike a very fair balance. It allows the commercial development to proceed while minimizing impacts for residents, businesses, and visitors to the Bridgeport Avenue and Long Hill Crossroad area. We really believe the conservation easement proposed in our agreement is essential to the function and safety of the intersection at Long Hill Crossroad and Bridgeport Avenue. We travel it every day, multiple times a day. And we support the proposal for the 8 units of housing along Long Hill Crossroad, and we want to talk a little bit about that. The housing is consistent with the historic land use patterns all along Long Hill Crossroad. The area has residential homes directly adjacent to or in front of industrial and commercial sites. And the mix of residential and commercial development is very successful in this area. And we really believe that the housing units will not only knit together the residential pattern of development along Long Hill Crossroad, but it will absolutely generate less traffic than industrial development. And also, when you think about it, will add to the low inventory of available homes in Shelton. We certainly appreciate the Commission's recognition of quality of life matters, and we really believe the idea of open space instead of the 8 units of housing represents the care and concern of your Commission. We understand that it's not within the jurisdiction of the Commission to consider the financial viability of any development proposal. However, if you think about it, as a practical matter, if the open space designation along Long Hill Crossroad renders the project financially unviable, we fear a more intrusive proposal may evolve, and that will negatively impact the intersection along the Long Hill Crossroad corridor. You certainly have broad authority to legislate land use matters, and we really respect that authority and ask that you work along with us and the applicant to demonstrate how a land use commission, an applicant, and a neighborhood can successfully work together to balance development and preserve quality of life. We believe such a partnership would be an example for Shelton and other communities in the future. We as a community sincerely thank you for your volunteerism and your full consideration of our agreement.
Thank you, Ms. Grasso.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Castro, do you have anybody else?
I'm adding in Chris Douglas.
Okay.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can, Mr. Douglas. Identify yourself for the record.
Chris Douglas, CHRISDOUGLAS, 39 Hawks Ridge. I'd like to echo Christine's comments. I'd like to first start by saying thank you to the commissioners. Thank you to Attorney Thomas, and thank you to the developer, Jim Body. We've been at this now for about, 7 months almost, 6.5 months. And we believe that our progress has made this a better development. February 5th, 3 weeks ago, we experienced a slight setback when the residential component of the upper piece was essentially dismissed. And we liked that. And by the way, we did not create that. When we say Hawks Ridge, we did not create that. That concept was floated to us by the developer. We endorsed it and we liked it for one main reason. And that reason is, and remains the fact that because of the location of that piece of property, the access to it has to be between Hawks Ridge Drive and Wellsview Drive. Now, that section of Long Hill Crossroads, if you know the road, it's narrow, it's straight, and it's traveled very fast. So it's a downhill slope, so that when people come down from Long Hill Avenue, they accelerate. And quite frankly, when they come up, they get around the bend and they accelerate to get up the hill. It's a very dangerous piece of Long Hill Crossroad. And directly on that section of road is a school bus stop. So we endorsed the residential portion of the project because we knew that there would be essentially class 1, class 2 vehicles going in and out of that driveway. Very similar to, by the way, Hawks Ridge and Sally's Way. Okay, both residential components, developments. So we thought that would be a good idea. Any development that goes into that piece of property, and when you hear light industrial, you assume and you think about what can be going in and out of there, right? Any development that goes there that allows anything greater than, let's say, class 4, maybe class 5 vehicle traffic is potentially extremely dangerous, extremely dangerous. In fact, I don't even know if a class 7 or 8 vehicle, tractor trailer, such as we have down at the bottom of the hill with Honeysell, I don't even know if a tractor trailer could make that swing coming out of there. So that's why we endorsed the residential, because it was a lighter use of the driveway, not because, as was stated in the meeting on February 5th, because we wanted a higher buffer between Hawks Ridge and the development. That's not the reason. The developer, to his credit, has accepted the fact and has agreed to put in a robust vegetative buffer along Long Hill Crossroads, which quite frankly satisfies us. We don't necessarily need to have condominiums or townhouses to buffer the rest of the view from Hawks Ridge down to the development. It's mainly for us, it's about traffic. And so I would suggest, and I would ask, respectfully, of course, that everybody on this call find time over the next day or two, start out at Long Hill Avenue, drive down Long Hill Cross, and when you get to Robert Sinto's, the entrance to his building where Modern Plastics is, that is the beginning, if you will. That is directly across from Hawks Ridge. That section of road for the next 100 yards or so about a football field, is where that driveway must cut in. And that is a really dangerous section of road. And you'll know what I'm talking about. And please don't take it from me. Go see for yourself. Then when you get down to the bottom of the hill, find a way to turn around. It's going to take you a few minutes because it's tricky, because there's a lot going on down there. Come up the hill and experience it yourself coming up the hill and see what it's like. And look, I'd be happy to make everybody a cup of coffee, meet at the Hawks Ridge clubhouse, and then walk everybody over there. It's about a 100-yard walk. We could stand at the school bus stop and we can witness what happens at that section of road. All we're asking for at this point is that whatever goes in there Now, we believe, by the way, the bottom portion, the PDD portion, we believe is a better development. We believe we made great strides. What we're asking for now is this upper piece consideration, either strongly consider going back to the townhouses or strongly be involved in and understand what is going to go in there from a development standpoint, either commercial, light industrial is it just the sound of it is very scary. So we want a safe entrance. We want an entrance that connects to Long Hill Crossroads that is vehicle class 2, class 1, maybe class 3, on occasion class 4, maybe occasionally a recycle truck or a trash collection vehicle like we have at Hawks Ridge and Sally's Way. But anything other than that is going to be not only detrimental to Hawks Ridge, but to the entire Long Hill Crossroads community. By the
Mr.
way,
Douglas, you're over your 5 minutes. Can you wrap it up, please?
let me just say this one thing. When we speak about Hawks Ridge also represents people from Spoke Drive, David Drive, Sharon Drive, Sound Ridge, Long Hill Avenue, Rocky Rest Road, and I believe it's Sound Crest as well. So this is not just about Hawks Ridge. This is about the entire eastern portion of that development, all up and down Long Hill Avenue. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Please, I implore you, take a ride tomorrow or the next day. Go up and down Long Hill Crossroads. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Ms. Castro, is there anyone else?
No one showing.
All right, last call. If there's anybody from the public who wishes to address the commission on this application, please use Zoom's raise your hand feature or dial *9.
No one showing.
Okay, Attorney Thomas, is he with us?
Yes, he is.
Okay, Attorney Thomas, do you have any response to any of the comments from the public? He may be,
He's with us in image only.
yeah. He may be tied up with that other meeting that he had to attend. So, if that is the case, seeing that he needs to be able to respond, we may just need to go ahead and continue the public hearing and start off next time this is on the agenda with him having the ability to respond to all the comments.
Yes, I would motion to keep the public hearing open then.
Okay, there's a motion for the to continue the public hearing from Commissioner Tiggy. Is there
Just to be clear, was there any other information that was requested? So the only reason we're holding this open is for Attorney Thomas to provide comment on the public speaking portion?
unless there's something else that any other commissioner felt was required?
I also didn't see a green map, but I could be mistaken. I would like to see that though.
A green map?
You talking about
Yeah,
showing
the Attorney Thomas mentioned that he had submitted a map showing the, like, I guess, green.
The
nature of-
landscaping, the
Yes,
landscape plan?
yeah, that's the word. Yes, landscaping. Yes.
yeah, that's part of the 10 or 12-page site plan.
We have that.
Yeah,
In the site plan.
it is actually sheet SP7 and SP8. That's the landscape plan. It's 2 pages
Oh.
because of the length of the
That's what he meant. Okay, I'm used to, because don't we sometimes we'll get like colored versions of that too, right?
back
Like,
when he had something that some things were in color, but that was not.
Sometimes it may be
Right.
included in the architectural drawing, but not, it's
Gotcha.
typically not specifically for the landscape.
Yep,
I stand corrected.
This
no
is
problem.
conceptual at this point.
Yep. All right, so there's a motion on the floor to continue the public hearing made by Commissioner Tiki. Is there a second?
Commissioner Kelly was second.
Okay, so on the motion to keep the public hearing open, Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
Commissioner McGee,
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki,
Aye.
Commissioner Cristiano,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
All right.
and chair votes aye. Motion to keep the public hearing open has passed by a vote of 6-0. So this particular application will be on the agenda of an upcoming meeting. Our next agenda item is the public portion. If there's any public official or member of the public who would like to comment on an item not on the agenda, please use Zoom's raise your hand feature or dial *9 on your phone. Ms.
No,
Castro?
no one's showing.
No one at all, okay. All right, so no public official or member of the public comment. So we'll move on to other business and approval of the February 5th, 2025 meeting minutes. Is there anyone have any comments or changes for the meeting minutes?
Chairwoman, I do have a comment. I'm just trying to pull it up.
Sure.
On page 4 of the minutes. This is not working. The bottom of page 4, regarding something that I said that expressed that the Hawks Ridge residents would be looking over a shopping center if approved. If I said Hawks Ridge, that was an error. I don't recall saying Hawks Ridge. It would be the folks that would be living in those condos would be looking over a shopping center if approved. So basically, Hawks Ridge people were asking to put other people into a situation that they don't want to be in. And that's
Exactly
what I
what
was
you said.
referring to.
Yeah. So if that Hawks Ridge was changed to condo,
Yes, the condo residents would be
Yeah.
looking over a shopping center.
okay. All right. Is there anyone else that has any changes? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve with the changes?
Commissioner Parkins will make that motion.
Okay, and is there a second?
Commissioner Ticky will second.
Very good. So on the motion to approve the February 5th minutes with the changes noted by Commissioner Parkins at the bottom of page 4, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain, Commissioner Cristiano. I came in during a few minutes late during the sign portion. So I wasn't here for the entire meeting.
All right, so on the motion to approve with the changes, let the record show the vote was 5-0-1 with no commissioners voting nay and 1 commissioner abstaining. Just a reminder to the commission and to the public that this is the last meeting of the commission that for entirely by Zoom, starting with our next meeting on March 12th. Commission meetings will be in person at City Hall and via Zoom. And any questions from anyone? All right, seeing that there's no other item on the agenda, the chair declares this evening's meeting is adjourned as of 7:15 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, all.
Good night.